here in Idaho. We're going to turn it because it's going to yell at me if I don't. It's just impossible. So here's Darwin.
Hey, how you doing?
Honeydew Carpenter, and we didn't do a live show this weekend, so I thought we're here filming, getting ready to do the rocket mass heater. Did you want to talk about it a minute, or talk about what video we're thinking about doing with it?
Yeah, why not? I just got the frame made that it's gonna sit on. I haven't got the back legs on, but I got the front ones. And as you can see, if I just move it, look at that. Our stove is moved, and there's the frame. And it just sits right in like a Lincoln log or something. But I did a test burn on it last night, and it turned out phenomenal. And I was able to do a lot of different things with it. It wasn't burning very efficient. Oh.
The one you wanted to talk to today.
Oh.
Is that Danny?
That's him.
Oh, the guy who said really about the safety. And
yeah.
You know what, bud? I ran right out and I bought a bigger angle grinder with a guard on it that would fit the size of blade I needed to do what I needed to do. So I say thank you. And also I noticed that you made some comments about the heat riser. Why didn't you make it into one? I specifically cut it into 4 parts because, as you'll see on a video that we're going to be making today, I wanted to do different tests on different sections of the heat riser.
Can you see the questions?
I can't see the questions.
Okay, guys, I'm going to try and read the questions, but it might be struggle. Okay. Okay, everybody's saying they like what they're seeing. So is there anything else you wanted to say for the live stream? Or
well, I got it down to a real efficient burn last night. I was having the fuel, oxygen, and the size of the burn chamber. That all plays a part, and I literally was drilling holes in the front and just getting them a certain size and seeing if it worked out, if that was enough oxygen, and if it wasn't, I augered them until they were a little bit bigger, and I got it really dialed in. I was burning about 950 to 990 degrees in the burn chamber, and on the outside of it, the max I got was maybe 160 degrees, and on the outside of the throat, the portal that goes up, it only has 1 inch of refractory mix around it, and max I got was like maybe 180 on it. But right here where all the extra oxygen goes in and the fire happens, I have, 2.5 inches of refractory around that. And I was 245 to 260 degrees on the outside. So it was getting hot in there. My aluminum mold that I molded in the portal did melt out. And we're going to do a little bit of video about that. There's still some flakes in there. You can hear them. Mm-hmm. And so, even though it was only around 1,000 degrees in the burn chamber, it got way hotter than that through the throat and up in here. Way hotter. Because aluminum melts at 1,221 degrees. So, I know it got at least that hot. And my thermometer, I couldn't get it up over the riser because there was just a solid white, blue kind of huey flame coming out of it. And what was crazy was I just put 3 apple logs about this big around, and they burned for like 2.5 hours, and they didn't even all the way burn. I had to shut it down.
And then Julie came and tore the logs apart, so we don't really have proof anymore. But yeah, that would have been cool if Julie.
She goes, "These are cool." I
was looking at it because they were still intact. The fact that they were still intact after that long of a burn, and so yeah, I should have not touched. Okay, there might be more questions for you. Let's see. The Addicted Prepper said, "Can't wait to see it in place and working. Way to go, great job. Like what he's doing. Hello. Okay." So the Have More Farm said, "Would a larger vessel be appropriate, you think?"
Are you talking about the burn chamber? Or are you talking about a larger portal going up into the vortex area?
Let's see. And he also said, what was the other thing he said? He said, More refractory. How many hours total so far have you worked on this stove?
Oh, God.
So, yes, he is acting. What is he asking? Whatever you said, he said yes to.
Oh, okay. So, I think he's talking about either... It's a pretty big burn area in there.
It's huge compared to most.
It's 12 inches around. It's huge compared to most.
Yeah.
I actually, to answer your question, I did a test on it last night because I saw several different formulas where the burn chamber was critical. And so I lined it completely and filled it. I lined the bottom with these, and I put these on the side, and I filled in the gaps, and I totally cut down the burn chamber size to the size that they specified, and it did not work for this deal. It works way better with the larger vessel for the burn chamber, for whatever reason. Really, it's just a matter of oxygen and fuel and where they're at what time. This is like a main jet, if you're talking carburetors, up here in the front door, and then these jets where additional oxygen goes in after the gasification happens in the burn chamber. Because it's kind of like the movie Backflash. They did a whole movie about it where all this gasification happened in buildings, and then a window would open or something, and then boom, it would flash, right? And that's the same thing that happens here. You only have a limited amount of oxygen in the burn chamber. You have way more fuel in there, so then it can burn because of the limited oxygen, but it still is hot enough to create the gases. And in a normal stove, those gases just go right out the chimney. But in this stove, they are superheated because they are insulated around them, and they don't just dissipate off, so they're superheated. And when you add a little extra oxygen to them through these glue hole portals, I thought that was a clever idea, how I cast and molded this around glue sticks to create the air imports into it.
I'm going to try and see if I can show the hole, but I'm not sure. Can you see the hole right
Well, the hole
there?
comes in at this angle. So you'd...
They keep asking comments, so okay, let's see if okay. James NYC said, "Is there or has anyone come up with any mathematical equations or ratios for rock mass heaters?" Which you used that book to get your ratios.
I did, but the ratios for the burn chamber in this setup do not apply. I tried them, and it wouldn't fit enough fuel to efficiently run that way.
Mel, do you have the book? The book that Darwin started with?
Or is it in your garage?
And we'll show it to him because we have.
It's one or the other.
It's what is their name? It is what is their name?
Oh, the guy's up in Montana.
It's Ianto Ellis or something.
Yeah,
Is that right? But the book is the rocket mass heater by two people that talk a lot with Paul Wheaton. What is their name? Because they're the ones that wrote it. They went and put the tables together, but they have a really good book, and I lent it to Darwin so that he would not have to...
And let's be clear, I didn't even know what a rocket mass heater was 2 months ago. I didn't. But I do have a lot of experience, done thousands of tests on different concrete mixes. I was certified in concrete and as an engineering field technician, and I worked at an engineering firm for many years. So I just done thousands of tests on them. And I saw the theory behind how this worked, and it really interested me big time. I've done a lot of building of snowmobiles and, piping them and porting them, and I just understand oxygen and fuel and how they work, and this idea that you could create more gases than could burn in a chamber by insulating it, and then ignite those gases in another area later and have this efficient system just intrigued me.
Was there even any smoke coming out? If you had a white flame, there couldn't have been any smoke
Here's
coming
the deal. I put 3 little logs of apple wood, just no more than 2.5, 3 inches around, and immediately, in just minutes, it turned just to this blue-white, just like candle.
And you had to throw in pine in order to get any kind
in
of
order
color
to
in
get
it.
color so I could video it, I had to take some pine chips that I use for putting in my chicken coop and throw them in there and shut the door just so that it would turn orange color.
Some visible anything.
Something visible. My camera wouldn't even pick it up.
Yeah.
It was burning so hot.
Let's see if they have any more questions. Sorry, guys. We got some really bright sunlight. It's a beautiful day, but my goodness. Let's see. James in NYC, such as air intake to combustion chamber, stack out, put diameter and height ratio, type of ratio. Thanks for yours. Yes. And the book that Darwin started with, there is a book on it, but he's making a hybrid type of a situation.
I am.
It's like he started over.
I chose to include the height of the vortex area into the heat riser as part of the height of the heat riser. I did not include any of the 3-inch portal that I ran up in that equation, which I don't know, maybe I should have. That's maybe why my math is off on the burn chamber size, because my burn chamber is way bigger than it's supposed to be. But I can't believe how well it works and how efficient. Those 3 little logs, after 2.5 hours, I just shut it down. It was 1 in the morning, and
It was time to
what
go to
keeps
bed
you up
again.
at night, right?
Invisible flames.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe it.
Somebody said the name. It is Erica and Ernie Weisner. They did write the book that I gave to Darwin.
Okay, yeah.
And they were not the originals, but they're the ones who are the most well known right now for being really technical about how they do it so that it always works. So thank you for that. Who was it that said that? It was Michael Calbo. So thank you, Michael.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, so the Rocket Mass Heater book, the Builder's Guide, this is the book that he started with, and now he's building something different.
So, yeah, but you got to understand, in this book, they're all made from bricks. They're this huge monstrosity that's meant to be perfect, permanent, and it's heavy.
We have a tiny house. We can't have heavy.
Julie's like, no, it's got to be light.
Yeah.
It's got to be portable. So
I'm
if
not
I want to
picky.
move it, no, she's not picky, right? And she kind of put these different parameters on, and me being my wife, she goes, oh yeah, he can do it. He can do anything, right?
Right?
And then I read the book. I actually just opened it and read a passage or two out of it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is right up my alley. And it's been a fun journey, but I've done hundreds of dollars worth of and hours in different mix designs and stuff.
Because it needs to be perfect for safety. If you
yeah,
don't do
it
right,
does.
it's
It
not
needs
safe.
to be perfect. And when I first burnt this on the first test burn, I only filled it with refractory mix about halfway up on the burn chamber. And then I did another layer. All I have is like 2 inches left on the outside. I'm going to do a seal layer. And the reason I did that was because I just thought, I'm using a clay mix, and the fire clay I decided to use was bentonite because it's just a really good high quality type fire clay to make my clay slip to put into the mix that I put around the chamber. And I was afraid that if there was a pocket of too much moisture in there left over and I got it up to temperature, it could potentially explode. And so I did it in layers, and I cured out 6 inches, then I cured out another 6 inches, and now I'm down to my last 2 inches. I'm going to do my seal layer, and I'm probably going to add a little bit more clay in that layer because it's got to be super hard, and a little less perlite in it. So I'm going to eventually do a mix on my last layer, the mix on all these, and what they are, and I'm going to put them into a downloadable form for everybody that they can get. I'm not out to gouge anybody. I do have a lot of time and experimenting in it. I'll probably give them out for like $1.99 or $2.99 at the max. It's just, I just want people that really are interested and want it to be able to have access to it. And so that is coming. That is definitely coming.
Okay, they want to know, can you pan over the stove and show the opening and burn chamber? Do you want to do that, or do you want to save that for later?
Let's do it. No. I can do a video too for the public, but for Julie's people, let's.
I'm trying really hard to show it, but the sun is.
Remember I talked about all the holes I drilled in it? I started out with just 6 small holes, and then I kept augering them out as big as I could.
Do we need to turn it or?
And then I kept drilling more, and I did them symmetrically.
Okay, so I'm trying to make sure I'm actually showing them, but I can't see because the conversation is. Okay, yes, now I can see. There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
So I kept these started out as little 1/8" holes, and I just augered them bigger and bigger and bigger until I got the right oxygen level that.
And I think it's
burn
beautiful.
chamber.
I think that's actually a really pretty pattern. It reminds me of flowers.
You know, this half sphere I got from a buddy of mine, Dana Collins, at armysurplus.com or warehouse.com.
And you got a lot of your stuff from him.
I did. This, he gave me this. This was out laying in his barn. This, it was or in his yard, you know, his backyard where he keeps a bunch of stuff. This is the inside of a water heater. You know, this stainless steel tank. And so this just goes on like that. I got this hinge from Army Surplus, and I just rounded it off and put it up there and welded it on. I welded this handle on, but there's the 3 logs that I had going.
And I broke. Sorry, they were intact.
Yeah, they were intact, and
I was
Julie
playing with
decided
it.
to break them.
I was charmed.
Can you actually see the portal and how well that refractory mix held up? I don't know if you can see in there or not.
The space in between? Or
No,
back in the back?
the round
I have no
shape.
idea. It is so hard to see in there. Hopefully they can
But see, this was my last layer of refractory, and I'm just going to do the last, 3 inches or so, and I'm going to make it a little bit different because I want it to be a little more clay, a little less perlite, a little harder.
Sorry, we're whispering to each other.
Huh?
I need somebody to look on from that side so that I can't tell what they can see.
Oh.
Can you see
yeah.
it?
Yes.
You can see?
Okay, now go in. No, let's angle it inside.
Because the problem is then the conversation
Your
pops up and
hand
then
is
you can't
covering
see
the
anything.
camera, Darwin.
Oh. See, I'm a crappy camera
You're a
person.
crappy camera. Stick with your tools. I don't know what you guys can see. Okay, so let's go back to the comments really quick and see what they were saying. Let's see. Okay, and somebody asked, wouldn't a pellet stove be more eco-friendly? But the thing is, this does a complete burn. There is no smoke left over.
There isn't, and there's a lot of.
Can you see him?
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
You can see yourself?
Well, I
Well.
can see me and he's under me, but you have all the questions,
Yeah.
Oh.
so I can't.
So, anyways, I've seen a lot of people that have put hoppers on these. And
Yeah,
that-
so have I.
Like
You
I
can see
said,
them?
I
Yeah.
didn't
Okay.
even know what a rocket mass was 2 months ago. This has been a lot of research and energy on my part to just kind of put this together from all salvaged items. You know, a salvaged air compressor, a salvaged water tank, everything's salvage on it. And
So if you had all of your materials together, you already knew what the refractory mixes were that you wanted to put in. What would be the amount of money and time you would have if you had everything, the correct mix, all the materials on hand,
right.
and you said ready, set, go? How many hours and how much money would it cost you to make this again?
I really think that because the small amount of steel that it takes and whatnot, I really think you could, and even if you were not resourceful at sourcing items, if you had to go down and buy 2 feet of a 12-inch main line, and then 2 feet of 14-inch main line, and the flat plate and everything from a steel place to go around and do it, I think you could buy everything, including everything for the mix, for under $200.
And so so what would really save you would be to have exact measurements on what you made.
Right.
So some kind of plan.
Yeah,
And
which
then
is coming.
the recipe for because you did something
Right.
special with this because you were concerned it was going to be too brittle. So he has other things that he's done to
Right.
it that are, what's the word, proprietary. That it was only because you put so much time into it that you know.
I guess it's proprietary, but there have been a lot of people who said, "Are you going to patent this? Are you going to patent that?" You know what? I just have this belief in me that karma comes back around and gets you.
Yeah.
And it gets you good or it gets you bad. And if somebody can take my foam mate and improve on it and do something, I hope they pay it forward. You know, most of the people who have bought the plans on my foam mate said, "You did such a good job on the video. I didn't even need it, the PDF, to build it, but I figured I would throw you $8 just for saving me $350 or $400,
Right.
right? You know, and so these plans and stuff, I hope that they help humanity eventually.
Well, though, you're going to help me first. You're going to help me first because this is going to go in my house, and I think it's beautiful. I think that it looks a little bit like a train, like a locomotive.
Oh, it does.
From the front, and I think that just looks really cool.
I actually, for me, it was like.
Let's see. We'll try and get into the sunlight.
For me, it was like a Picasso.
It's beautiful.
I had no idea. In fact, if you watch Julie's earlier videos where she was plugging me that I was going to build her this, it was basically just this thing where my wife and Julie got together and they decided that her husband
spend the next 2 months building
that her husband had the talents to do anything. And so I was like, okay. And the very first time you plugged me, I had these flat pieces of steel. I'm like, I'm going to make a square burn chamber. I'm going to do this. Nothing ended up.
Right.
After I started
it doesn't look anything.
After I started doing research and after I started kind of sourcing things and going, wait, I don't need it to be square. I can make it round. And then I'm like, wait. I was just out with my buddy at his place and I was like, that stainless steel tank? And he goes, yeah, come out and get it. You know, it was just an old water heater core.
Right.
You know?
And it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And I was like, I can use that. And then I didn't even know how I was going to cut circles because I don't have access to all the tools I used to. And I literally did all this with a little $120 buzz box.
Which is a cool video, like the sparks flying off of that thing.
Right. And an angle grinder.
Video,
I cut the circles, I cut everything with
cheap.
cheap. Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to have access to a fully stocked shop in order to be able to make this.
Right.
I'm excited about if you do a welding video. If you do a welding video, I would love to learn how to do spot welding and stuff like that.
Right. I am going to do a welding video. In fact, I'm going to build a spot welder. I have all the core items to do it.
You're too much. Okay, any questions? Let's make sure we didn't miss any because we got to get on to our filming today.
That's where the...
Okay, somebody asked, have you tried papercrete? So he did a concrete air foam machine is what he made.
Right, and I entrained air in it. For the heat riser, and this is crazy because each section of it only weighs like 1.5 pounds or 2. It's super light. It worked super good. But I took aircrete and put perlite in it, and all by itself, because it's a Portland concrete, that just crumbles like instantly. I decided in some harebrained idea of mine that I would try and make, instead of normal foam, I would make soluble glass foam. And so I turned some water glass or some sodium silicate into foam with my foam mate and entrained it in the concrete, and it worked. It was still a little more brittle than I would like, and so I came up with a way to seal it at least 1/4 inch deep all the way around, and that worked good too. Basically, I did a test on a portion of it, and I dropped it in water. I wanted to see what the absorption was of it, and then I took another piece of it and I dropped it in a solution of water glass or sodium silicate, and I wanted to see how deep that would soak into it, and I diluted it until it would soak in as far as I needed it. But then I had to have a way to get the water back out of the sodium silicate so it was concentrated. So I rubbed Portland cement on the outside to act as a water absorption mechanism.
Yeah.
And then when I fired it, it gave it a glass coating on that heat riser. It worked tremendously well.
And he has videos. Dang it! Why won't it? Okay, so they're asking, will you eventually sell these? Probably not, because you're just selling plans, right?
It takes now that I know how to do it, I could probably build one, but it would still probably cost you way more than it's worth to have the honeydew carpenter build it.
Right.
Because I'm busy doing videos and doing other things, and
you could probably hire somebody locally to make it if you didn't.
Yeah, in fact,
if
you had the plans, you could literally take them to a fab shop and have them all made up. And the worst case scenario, all you'd have to do yourself is drop the refractory mix in around it,
Are these intended for mass heating, water, or cook stove functionality?
Yeah, in fact, Julie is going to run the exhaust from this out of and through a bench and then out of her house. And so it's going to go through a tremendous amount of mass, actually. Why don't you show them what it looks like with... This is a little tall.
Hey, Susan. Okay. Thank you so much for
So this is the rest
Thank you.
of the water heater tank. And I haven't shined this part yet, so forgive me. And I just... I don't even have the bolt-on mechanism for this yet, but this is going to go in place. It's going to have tabs that go down, and then it's going to screw tight around this to where you can just take a tube of refractory cement that, you know, it's in a caulking tube, and just seal that. It's also going to have an exhaust about that shape cut in it that'll go out, and then this will sit over it, over top the heat riser, and then the heat will come back down, go out the exhaust through a bench, and then out the house. And so it is going to have huge mass properties. I even have a plate that goes around here. If she wants to put a bigger ring up here, she can fill that with pebbles as well to create more mass.
But with such a tiny house, if we put a bench in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You can only do so much.
Really
but then
cold.
I was concerned that this, well, this is actually 5 inches taller than it's going to be. It's going to be down here. Because I haven't cut it yet. But that's a lot of radiant area too. So while you're heating your mass, you might get radiated out of your house. I don't know.
It's going to be a big experiment.
It's going to be a lot of testing and experience. And if she can't have that much radiant area, then we'll just put the plate on, put it around, and fill it with the sand or the gravel. And all she'll have to do is pull a plug and drain that stuff, and then she can still move it.
So here's one comment that this is the reason why we're having, and hopefully Darwin will make a video of this soon, is that I'm Sucking Wind said many of us wouldn't be able to get all this stuff to make the stove. So this is salvage. I don't think there's anything new on this stove. It was all salvage.
If you go to a plumbing place that installs water heaters that go out, they just take those to the dump. There's always a few in their back alley. You can get an old water heater, pull the insulation and the sheet metal off the outside, and what it has is a stainless steel core.
Yeah. And even the tiniest town will have something like that.
This air tank that I used was an old air compressor. Granted, not everybody has access to one of those that someone was throwing away or whatever. That's fine. You could also use 12-inch irrigation main line that's steel and just put a flat plate on the back, and this could be 14-inch irrigation main line. So I mean, everything, all the steel to do this would be easily accessible. And I'm going to have a bill of lading or a materials list that can be purchased from a commercial place if you don't have access to salvage this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm also going to do a sourcing video. I did one already, but I have one that's a little more complete where I went to a well place and I talked to him and said, hey, do you have any pressure tanks, steel pressure tanks out there? And he's like, yeah, do you have a semi truck? Take them all. And you know, show the clip. I've got a picture and a video of just a yard about a half acre big, just full of these things. And so they're out there if you get a little bit creative. But if you don't want to be creative, you don't have to. You can just go to your local steel place, Vernon or Idaho Steel around this area, and just buy a few feet of 12-inch pipe, a few feet of 14-inch pipe, some plate steel, and this could all be done with purchase stuff, and that steel is not that expensive.
And you do have some good videos on your channel already about some of the smaller parts of the project. Somebody was just asking, they said they want to stick with the brick design. So here was the reason why we didn't go with the brick design. I live in a tiny house that does not have a solid concrete foundation. I have plywood on the floor, and which means that it can't be heavy. So this mass here, in here, might be plenty for the house, and we might not need a bench. We might need a bench, but we might not. And so we at this point we've kind of decided we want to do a bench just to show how it's done. But originally the reason it was being built this way was because we needed it to be light. We didn't want it going through the floor. We didn't want it to stress the floor. And above all, Darwin made it so it could be moved afterwards. It just unbolts and you just pick it up.
It goes up like an erector set.
Yeah, you can take it apart so that if we wanted to take it to another house, we could. So that's why it's different. Let's see, how heavy is the heater? At this point, how heavy do you think it is?
Let me see. I'm thinking, 65 pounds, really. Maybe.
And it does have all sorts of concrete in it.
Yeah, it does. It's a lightweight mixes, but it's in there.
Okay, so let's see if there's another one. Okay, Michael Calbo said, you should patent it, but make it free to reproduce. Prevent someone from patenting it and suing for its use. Let's see, I'm Sucking Wind once again says, not many will be able to make this stove. So I want to know how to make this stove. So I have asked Darwin to make some videos on how to weld.
Yeah.
He already has some videos on how to cut the circles with something that is not expensive to use, because you used your grinder.
Yeah, I did, and I used to have a plasma cutter and a really expensive welder and other tools that I had access to, but I sold them all when I moved from Boise to here, and I just didn't have access to them. So I did this whole thing with an angle grinder and like a $120 buzz box that I got at Harbor Freight. And I'm not a proponent of Harbor Freight tools. They're probably not the best, but guess what? They got the job done. And my welds look pretty good,
Well, even you said that they would look better if you'd had your old equipment.
They would.
But they're functional.
Yeah,
and you use tools that somebody else can access. So they are concerned that you're not patenting it, and so that somebody can't come back later and sue you for, even though you invented it.
I used so much of the math and the scientific background and research on these that other people have come up with. I don't know what I could patent, to be honest with you. I mean, somebody already came up with insulate the burn chamber and run it through a port that's smaller than the riser, so that it creates a huge vacuum, and then you can entrain some air into it. That's already all been come up with. The only difference that I did was I made it portable. This is more portable than a normal wood stove in any normal home. Those things weigh like 400 or 500 pounds. They're heavy, And
oh, thank you. So yes, moderators, I forgot. Can you link to the Honeydew Carpenter so everybody can see that he has a channel? He's not just on my channel. We kind of did this as a one-off. We were going to do a bigger video, but okay, so people are starting to feel a little more like, hey, I can spot weld. I could do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, name and channel is Darwin from the Honeydew Carpenter. That's his channel. I'm sorry. Thank you, Susan. I totally should have been paying attention to that. The Chili Expat family said that would also be an excellent mix for a wood-fired brick oven, I think.
And the person who makes Honeydew Carpenter channel all possible, because at this point I still have a job, and she stays up till 1 in the morning and does it all day when I'm at work, is my smoking hot wife, Melanie.
Cute thing that she is. Okay, Pamela Chadwell said, I could build one if I had the tools. The glass stuff sounded hard to make, is what I was talking about. I weld for, okay, so he has the mix for making the glass.
Oh yeah, I have a video.
He already has a video out.
For making sodium silicate, and a video. It's easy to make. Anybody could do it. Trust me on this. You just need to have a heat source outside to do it. You wouldn't want to try and do it in your kitchen because it does put off some noxious fumes. You'd want to be in a ventilated area.
They're worried it's going to burn the side of the house. It very well might. I'm super excited to have it do that.
Have it burn what?
That it's going to burn the side of the house.
Overheat the house.
Oh, overheat the house?
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting lots and lots. Okay, I'm going to let's see if we can answer some of these comments, and then we're going to go make the real video. More stuff like that get recycled. People do that for a living in my area. Okay, they've got Darwin's link, so I need to ask John to make sure to go in and put the link in the description. Have you thought about using aircrete for the concrete mixture to make it even lighter?
Yes, actually I have, and that's what I made the riser out of. I'm gonna go grab one real.
Okay,
There's
so
one right there.
so he has something
Oh.
that they call a foam mate,
Okay.
and
So here's
yeah.
the riser. These things weigh about 1.5 pounds. These are the riser. I ran this thing at, it had to have been, I know it was well over 1250 degrees because that's what aluminum melts at, and the aluminum form that I put through the portal melted out. So
and you knew it would.
and
you-
I knew
you
it
counted
would.
on
I
yeah.
planned on that happening, and that's why I surrounded it with a refractory mix.
So
that-
what's your Etsy store name? So for everybody, he has an actual gun that he created that costs like less than $30 to make. So you can make your own
a
aircrete.
foam generation gun.
And so
I
what's
call
your
it the foam
Etsy-
mate.
and
It's
what's your-
Honeydew Carpenter Shop at Etsy.
Okay. So if you guys want the plans, he's already got it up. And yes, he's way ahead of everybody. He had to stop building the stove so he could build the foam mate.
Yeah, well, Julie was actually asking my wife, why is he taking a rest to do that from building the rocket mouse heater? No!
He's just inventing new toys.
I was just inventing, new tools
new
to
tools,
get it done
not
right.
toys, not toys, never toys. Hey, Josh made it. Not Honeydew. Essential Mountain made it.
Oh, hey Josh, how you doing, buddy?
Okay, so we have a ton. We have got a ton. Okay, so Lars Myth said they have a heater room on a dirt floor dug down 1.5 feet. So it sounds like they have something interesting to go look at. Lars Myth. Okay, we're never going to get through this. Okay, so there we go. We're going to go make the real video now.
Okay, bye.
Bye.